My name is Whitney, and we appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us. Today's webinar will be led by Meredith Zachritz, the Director of Product Management, and Brian Maxin, Director of Sales. We'll have a Q&A session at the end where you'll be able to ask questions. When you want to ask a question, you can click the raise hand icon in GoToMeeting. Right now, everyone is muted, so when you have a question, I'll take you off mute and introduce you. This time, I'll hand the webinar over to Meredith Zachritz.
Thanks, Whitney. Today, Brian and I will review 7 ways that Journyx can help businesses that you may not have been aware of. We'll start by looking at Journyx PX for project resource allocations and financial forecasting. Then we'll review options for managing all of your employee leave time in the Journyx system. We'll also look at a new feature that's upcoming in version 9.5 for handling other types of data entry. And then the last of the core product areas we'll look at is the option to enter time for large groups of employees on a single screen. Then I'll turn the presentation over to Brian, who's going to cover some of the tools we have for calculating leave time accruals, validating your time entry data based on custom rules, and automating your payroll process. So let's jump right in to our first area. Now, the standard Journyx solution provides basic project management and project time tracking, but Journyx PX provides more detailed planning and tracking at the assignment or resource level, so at the person level, as well as financial forecasting for your projects that you can track against actuals to see how you're doing, make adjustments, and so on. Now, in order to show the PX planning and monitoring tools in action, we're going to start out today logged in as a project manager, and she's managing a set group of projects. Now, on a typical day, your project manager will start out on this project status dashboard. And in this case, our project manager is concerned about her project budgets and schedules, so where the project is today and what might need adjustment in the near future are the 2 primary concerns. And she can view graphs and detailed numbers to get more information on the plan and status of each project. She can also use this dashboard to quickly identify which projects are on track and which aren't. And then she can switch to other dashboards for more detailed information. So here she can see why the problem projects are off track through a series of warnings and alerts. And they inform her of things like tasks that are overdue, allocations that force users to work overtime, requests from some people to allow more time for the project, so they need more time than was originally estimated, and so on. Now, if she needs to make resource adjustments to a task that's running late, she can simply click on the task name in her dashboard, and then she'll be able to make updates to the tasks and assignments. Now, when it comes to planning and entering her projects into Journyx PX, she has a variety of options. Our standard integration, Journyx Project Link, allows project managers to set up their plans in MS Project and then transfer that data to either Journyx or Journyx PX with the click of a button. Future updates then keep both programs in sync. Now, if our project manager isn't using MS Project, that's fine. Then she can simply create new projects directly in the Journyx system or use the standard project imports to pull in data, perhaps from a spreadsheet or other software. Now, after the project plan is in the Journyx system, project and resource managers can use PX to check for resource availability. When project managers go to create or adjust project assignments, the assignment management screens provide them with all the information they need to make those critical allocation decisions. So we can click on blocks of existing assignments to view their status and understand exactly what someone is assigned to do at the current time. And we can also click on blocks of unassigned time so that we can go ahead and fulfill that assignment. Now, after selecting an existing assignment, or in this case we're doing a block of unassigned work because we're going to go ahead and assign this unassigned work, managers can then search for team members based on appropriate skills, locations, availability, or any other search criteria that your company wants to add to this search screen. So we'll search for some business analysts for this particular task. Now, our color-coded bar graphs provide a quick way to search for available time for each person. The white space indicates available hours or unassigned time, and you can mouse over to see exactly how much time is available for each person for this selected period. Now, because we're assigning a specific task, the time period is determined by the start and end dates for that task. And the green boxes represent other projects and tasks assigned to the person. Then our vacation, holidays, and a percentage of overhead time that you can set up for each person is reflected by the gray boxes. Now, if there's a red bar at the foot of the bar graph, this indicates the person is over-allocated for the selected period. And so you can use these bar graphs to determine who has the best amount of time available to work the selected assignment. Now, once the assignments are made, the project manager can then monitor assignment status, as we saw on her dashboard, and the team members will see these assignments on a screen called My Assignments, where it allows them to manage what they're assigned to do based on their deadlines and alerts them to any issues they have with their existing assignments. And they also receive email notifications letting them know anytime that they have new assignments or adjusted assignments. So everybody's kept in sync so that they can further the project plans along. Now, moving on to our next area, Journyx offers leave time management for employees and supervisors so that everyone can track work time and time off in one easy-to-use system. So if you give individual users access to request leave, they'll see links on their time entry screen. We see one here on our My Assignments. And at the same time, they can refer to their accrual or leave balances when requesting time off. Now, if you're not using Journyx PX, the same information is available on the basic time entry screen, and we see our accruals and then our link to our leave requests. Now, Brian is going to cover time off accrual balances in more detail in just a bit, but as a quick overview, these balances can be pulled from third-party HR accounting software, or you can use the Journyx system to populate and calculate them. So let's go to our month view. So our employee can go to his leave calendar and request a day off directly from his timesheet, knowing that he has some paid time off available. So we'll click on a specific day. Now, while the current release of Journyx shows all the same projects on the leave request screen that it shows on this user's timesheet, the upcoming version 9.5 includes a new feature that allows you to make specific projects, such as a time off placeholder, the only ones available on leave. So in 9.5, it will be possible to restrict time off entry to an explicit leave request that has to be approved. But in this case, we're going to search for our time off project and adjust any other details and notify our time approver. Now, the Journyx system includes notifications for letting his time approver know that he's requested leave and for letting him know when it's approved. Once his time off request has been approved, he doesn't have to do anything else. It's just going to be loaded into his timesheet automatically unless he happens to cancel it before he takes the time off. Now, managers or time approvers can then review pending leave requests from the people that they manage. And they have alerts, as you can see, letting them know that there are pending leave requests. Now, they can use this standard management screen to sort, review, and approve them. And then they can also decline requests and send explanations for it. The reason, for example, we noticed that Alan accidentally put the wrong pay type. Holiday instead of vacation, so we can supply that response and let him know how to correct it. We can also select multiple days and approve from this management screen. Now, managers can also use the calendar view of leave requests to check for scheduling issues, where perhaps maybe too many members of a single team have asked for time off on the same day. And we can see, for example, the day after Christmas, we have several leave requests. And so I'm able to get a view of everybody that I manage, how many people are taking time off on specific days. And then in addition to checking for conflicts, the managers can also approve or decline requests using the calendar view. All right, so we'll switch up again here. Now, in addition to the standard time and expense entry screens, Journyx offers a third entry screen that can be customized to track any type of data that your organization wants to track in conjunction with time and expenses. So customers have used this screen for things like widget completion tracking, equipment utilization tracking, recruiting fee tracking, and so on. Now, in older versions of Journyx, the screen was referred to as the mileage entry screen and can still be used to capture mileage entry if that is your choice going forward. But it can be used for any type of custom tracking in version 9.5. In my sample here, we left the name of the screen as custom entry. However, customers who decide to use this screen for tracking a third category of information will be able to rename the screen to indicate the way it's used by their organization. Now, custom entry looks very similar to time and expense entry and includes all of the same options. You can rename your data columns here. You can hide some of the data columns if you don't want to show all of them. You can set up project dependencies that will change your options based on your project selection. You can attach files and so on. Custom entry has its own approval process and its own set of standard reports. So the one thing that makes custom entry potentially a little different from time and expense entry is its ability to capture different units and then convert them all into a single currency for reporting. So you have the option here to track something that's less consistent than time, which is always in hours, or expenses, which is always in currency or dollars. You have the option to track in multiple types of units. So you can see here in my example, custom entry is being used to track equipment utilization and billing. My equipment varies, and so do the units that are used to measure utilization and generate those invoices. So my trucks may be tracked based on mileage, while my pipes and tools might be measured based on the number of feet used. And I can capture all of these amounts in different units, and then I can report on these in a single currency. And I do this by setting up conversion rates that allow me to turn all of those different units into a single currency, or dollars, when I report on the data. So moving on, the last feature area we'll look at today before we go on to some of our automation tools is what we call Master Timekeeper. And, whoops, just a moment, knocked myself off. There we go. And Journyx includes an option to give certain accounts access to enter time on behalf of others, and we call that timekeeping. And timekeeping is often used by administrators or supervisors to enter time on behalf of other employees, maybe who don't have access to computers or smartphones while they work. So we'll select a few people to use as an example. Master timekeeping allows you to enter time for groups of people on a single screen. This is particularly helpful for groups of employees that may be working remotely or off-site. And these employees may be working the same job, and previously the best alternative to report hours and job details was just to fax in timesheets to administration. So Master Timekeeping shows all of the current entries for each of the selected users, as well as any memorized entries that any of those users might have set up for their time entry screens. So we can go and enter time for a group, for example, working customer support this week, maybe out in the field, where internet and cellular services aren't available. And I can just quickly select my details for each user. And then go and enter some time. And then I have the option to either save these entries and come back to complete more of this time entry, or I can submit all of these users' timesheets for approval if they're complete for the period. All of these options available in Master Timekeeper make it quicker and easier to get time entered for a group of people. So now I'll go ahead and turn the presentation over to Brian so that he can tell you a little bit about accrual calculation options, some of the custom data validation, and automating the payroll process.
Thanks, Meredith. Hey, everybody. This is Brian. As Meredith mentioned, the three things that I want to focus on are around accrual calculation, or at least getting accrual balances into Journyx, our data validation tool, and our Payroll Rules Engine. So we'll go ahead and start with accruals in Journyx. I'm going to go ahead and log in as an admin. And Meredith mentioned previously, or at least you guys saw, the time off on her timesheet. And I'll show you a couple of ways to get that actually into the application. So first of all, probably the simplest, most straightforward way is directly through each individual user. In the management section, if you go to users, a submenu is accruals, and you can search for specific employees or hit the search button, and that's going to bring up the 4 people I have in my my demo world here. But I'll go ahead and pick on myself and click my name. And if I wanted to manually create a leave balance, I could just simply pick vacation in this example. I've got options for hard or soft accruals. Hard will not allow you to exceed your available amount, while a soft accrual will. But if you exceed a soft accrual, you'll receive a warning message, and so will your approver when you submit your timesheet for approval. But basically, I can pick hard in this case and say maybe I have 120 hours of vacation and hit the create button. And that's really pretty much all there is to doing that, just sort of manually directly within the application. Another option that you have is to import. So if I can go configuration, imports, one of my options is an accrual import. And this is basically all of our standard import utilities where you can schedule this to happen on a recurring basis or do this on demand. One thing I will point out to you is if you go to the help guide on any of the imports and help for this page, you'll get a second window that opens up that basically gives you examples of all of the import tools and what they should look like. For example, here's the importing accruals section, and if I click on this Excel accrual import template, it will open up an Excel file that basically will tell you what the Excel template needs to look like for you to import that into the application. And that's true for any imports into Journyx, by the way, in case you're interested in importing any other data into the system. All right, so there's 2 ways that we can get accrual balances into Journyx. The third way, if I wouldn't close out my browser, is by using our accrual calculator. So I'll log back in as this admin and show you a little bit about that. So we have a tool called the accrual calculator, and basically what it allows you to do is build different rules for calculating your accruals that can be based on tenure or type of employee. And basically you have the ability to go in and create what we call accrual tiers. And I've created 2 here. I basically based them on different types of employees and how long they've been working for the company. And in this particular case, every time the accrual calculator runs, I'm going to give the employees that fall into this particular type of employee 4 hours of vacation and 6 hours of sick day. And basically, the accrual calculator is an import tool. So you can schedule that to run on an interval. You can run that on demand. But in this particular case, every time I run it, again, it will provide an additional allotment of hours for sick day and vacation to these types of employees. The way that that would run, if I go to Tools, Import, and Accrual Calculator, again, this looks just like our standard import utility. I'll go ahead and preview this, and you can see based on the rules that I have in my tiers, Austin and John would receive 6 hours of sick day, and Brian and Whitney would receive 4 hours of vacation. So if I were to hit continue, it would just add those allotment of hours to my existing accrual balance for each employee. All right, so that is a high-level overview of the accrual calculator, how to import accrual balances in through our import utilities, and also how to just sort of manually create those balances by employees through the user interface of the application. The next thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is our data validation tool. And really the main value that this tool provides is it really helps cut down on some of the errors that users make when they're doing time entry. If you have people that mistakenly enter more than 24 hours in a day, or maybe they're not supposed to enter in less than 8 hours in a day, or you want them to be in 15-minute increments. The idea here is to try to limit the amount of corrections that you need to make, or limit the amount of time that your managers have to spend correcting timesheets, reviewing that in the approval process. So in the same tool section, we have a miscellaneous and then data validation settings. And I will just give you some examples on some of the rules that you can build with our data validation tool. You can build different rules by different pay groups, and this is just a user custom field. The first type of rule that we have is, we call them rejection rules. And this is more like the rules I just mentioned, where you can reject a timesheet if somebody is not supposed to work more than 24 hours in a day, or say more than 40 hours in a week. It's as simple as picking the specific pay group or group of employees that you want to apply this rule to, the summary of the different pay types that you have, and you can reject hours less than, greater than, or equal to specific hours in a specific period. So for example, if I wanted to reject all hours less than 8 in a day, I could build that rule, click the Add New button, and that would create the new rule for rejecting those hours. The next example that we have is around drop-down rule restrictions. What this rule basically does is it prevents people from tracking time against the wrong object. So a lot of times our end users will just pick the first option that appears in their drop-down menu. So what you have the ability to do, and what a lot of customers will do, is they will create a data object in the project, task, pay type, bill type columns that is something like select one. And they will create a rule here that prevents time entry against that select one option. And basically what that does, it will force the employee to actually go in and pick what it is that they're supposed to be tracking their time against, so that your time entry is as accurate as possible. But that's just an example. If you wanted to prevent people from tracking time against any other sort of data object in any of the other drop-down menus, that's certainly possible as well. The next option that we have is to create minute increment rules. So if you wanted to require your employees to enter time in half-hour or 15-minute increments, then you could build that rule that would prevent them from tracking, like, an hour and 7 minutes against a certain project. And then the next rule is for people that are recording in and out time. If you're actually having them punch in and out within Journyx, then you can have the system round that on different increments. A pretty common one is the quarter hour or the sort of 7-minute rule. But we've got different options here that when people punch in, for example, if they punched in at 8:03, you could round that down to 8 o'clock. The last option is for future time entry restrictions. This is probably most important for our customers that work on government contracts. The DCAA requirements don't like people to enter work time in advance. So you can restrict that the only type of time that people can enter in the future are things like pay time off, vacation time, things like that. So again, these are all rules that you can build through the data validation tool. You can build these different rules by different pay groups, which is just a user custom field on the user profile. So that is a summary of our data validation tool. The last tool that I wanted to walk you guys through is our Payroll Rules Engine. And over the years, many years, we've been working with Journyx customers. We've had different customers have the need to collect time to send that out to their payroll company. And so we have built this Payroll Rules Engine. And it is an export file, and it has payroll data. And I'll just go into an example configuration. And over the years, we've built several different payroll export file formats, most commonly probably ADP, Paychex, Dynamics GP. But if you see a payroll system, or you don't see your payroll system here, and are interested in creating a file out of Journyx to import into your payroll system, it's relatively simple, typically, for our services team to create that file format to meet your payroll system's requirements. All we typically need is an example of what that format looks like, and we can pretty easily generate that for you. At a high level, what this tool allows you to do is at the end of your pay period, you can go in and generate an export file that is formatted for your payroll system and is making calculations that are based on any of your payroll rules that you might have within your organization, such as overtime. This includes sort of a lot of the different rules, I'll say, for people in California. We've also encountered a lot of different sort of union labor rules. So we've got a lot of the rules already built into Journyx for calculating overtime. But again, if there's something that's missing that is unique to your organization, then we have the ability to customize that and build that into this tool. To give you an example, again, this is another tool that is built off of the concept of a pay group, which again is just a user custom field in the application. If I went to go ahead and run the payroll export, you can see I've built two different pay groups, one for exempt, one for non-exempt. But again, that's configurable by you on how you want to classify your employees. I'm going to go ahead and run my non-exempt employees. I'll choose my pay group. This is going to bring up the pay cycle that I have for this type of employee. I could pick that, click the preview, and this brings up my two employees that fall into that particular pay group. This is example is formatted for ADP. So I've got my employee ID number that basically maps this employee to the employee within ADP. In this particular example, Austin took 32 hours of regular time and 8 hours vacation. So it's breaking out the regular time. This D is for vacation as far as ADP is concerned. And you can see John is a non-exempt employee who worked 5 hours of overtime. So John just recorded 45 hours of regular time on his timesheet, and the Payroll Rules Engine broke those 45 hours out into 40 hours regular and 5 hours of overtime. So this is just an example of the system calculating overtime based on a 40-hour work week. But again, if you've got more complex overtime rules, the system most likely can handle it out of the box. If not, we've got some flexibility in creating those rules for you. Once you preview this file, you can create the export file. In this particular case, that is a CSV file format for ADP. You can create the file and then import that directly into ADP, thereby allowing you to not have to manually data enter that into your payroll system. So that is an example and sort of overview of the Payroll Rules Engine, which is sort of a conclusion of the 3 tools that I wanted to cover: accrual calculations, data validation, and the Payroll Rules Engine. So at this point, I will turn it back over to Whitney, and we can see if we've got any questions now that that we can try to answer for everybody.
Yeah, so just as a reminder, you can click the raise hand icon in GoToMeeting if you have a question. You can also type it in to the box, and I can read it for you. So let's see here. Our how do I get this there? All right, so we have a question here. When is version 9.5 being released?
That should be at the end of November or early December. Okay. It's in testing right now, and if you want to see more of the features in 9.5, your account representatives can provide a demo at this time, but it's in testing at the moment and should be available towards the end of November to early December.
All right. I have another written question here that says, in the month calendar view for leave requests, is there a way to view the names of the users and the associated time rather than just seeing pending 8 hours or approved 8 hours? I know you can see the names when you hover over the date, but it would be nice to see the names directly on the calendar.
There isn't at this time. We do have some work underway to add some options to the calendar view, and so that's likely will be available in the release following 9.5. But right now, like you said, as you mentioned, you hover over it to see the names, or you can go to the week or daily view to see where you can see more details. But right now, the names are not hard-coded or printed on the calendar view. So it's exactly as you say, you hover over to see the specific names.
Okay, we have another written-in question here that says, is there a way to set up the accrual calculator to run on a schedule, for example, on the 1st of every month?
Yes, so you can either schedule the accrual calculator to run on whatever time interval that you would like, monthly, weekly, or you can run it on demand as well. So yes, that is possible.
Have another written question here. Can the accrual calculator be automated to run? That may be a similar question to what we just had.
So again, just to answer that question as well, yes, it can be automated and scheduled to run on whatever interval that you want.
Okay. All right, so that's all I see written in, and I don't see hands raised. If you have any other question, go ahead and write it in now, and we can get to it. And just while we're waiting here, just as a reminder that we are recording today's webinar, and we will be putting it on the user community, and I'm also going to send out an email to all of you in attendance with a link so that you can have have the webinar right in front of you.
I also wanted to add to anybody that's on the phone, if anybody has additional questions beyond the webinar, would like to see a demonstration of any of these tools in greater detail, please feel free to reach out to your account manager, either Ron McCauley or Jessica Lopez, and they would be happy to schedule some one-on-one time with you to discuss any of these items in more detail.
All right, we have a written-in question here. We had technical difficulties and missed much of the webinar. Is the webinar available on the Journyx website? All right, just answered that one, so we're good there. Yes, it will be on the user community. If you aren't aware of the user community, it's just community.journyx.com. So you can find it there, and then I'll also send it in an email. All right, so that looks like all we have. And again, if you think of something else, just let us know. But we appreciate you taking the time out of your day today, and thank you very much.
Have a great day. Bye, guys.